'cause we don't wanna grow up. We just wanna be young.
Hey, this is the Daily Overpass. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today I want to tell you the one English phrase that completely confused me when I moved to England. Okay, so today I want to answer a question that has nothing to do with apps at all. Last week we got this question from FAQ with KR, which says, can you please teach me American English? I need. Please can you make a video on English language and slang? Thank you so much for the question, FAQ. However, I am like the worst person to ask. I am a foreigner living in England. So I moved out to England 20 years ago. And to this day, I still hear phrases and terms and slang that I've never heard before and that confuses me. And I've been away from the States for so long that I have no idea the slang that's used over there too. So a lot of times, even to this day, I will talk about something and people will say, is that what they say in America? Because it sounded a bit strange, and I'm thinking, I can't remember where I picked it up. Everything becomes a mismatch in your head, and my family thinks that I am picking up an English accent. People in England, they still, every time I go out, they still say, how long you over here for? Are you on vacation and all this kind of stuff? So I'm the last person to ask. I'm the last person to do it. Although I wish I could, that would be like a really good series if we could talk about slang. When I moved out to England 20 years ago, it's just over 20 years ago, I got a job in a factory packing yogurt into boxes. I think I've talked about this. That was my first job here, where I got my degree in the States. And so the place I was living before coming out here to England, I grew up in San Diego, but it was like this, it was a place called, it was called Higginsville, Missouri, right? And I worked at a Super 8 motel off the I-70 in between St. Louis and Kansas City. So I was working from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m. just manning the front desk, and then I would go to university during the daytime. There were some days where I left the house for 25 hours because I would sleep in the library and all this kind of stuff. But working in that Super 8 motel, we did get a lot of traffic through some parts of the year, so I would talk to a lot of truck drivers. A lot of truck drivers would come through, and a lot of them would give me advice on what people in England said or different phrases. It was kind of funny because they'd never been here, but there's certain things that Americans know about England, like we know that an elevator is called a lift, we know that a rubber is an eraser, we know, certain things that are just popular culture. However, I had this job at a dairy, and there was one phrase which I had never heard before. I've never read it in a book, I'd never heard it on a television show, anything, and it completely threw me. And it was this. So if you're learning slang or you move out to England, it might be new to you, or maybe it's so commonplace now that you hear it all the time. But I was working in this dairy, and we were packing, on the conveyor belt, packing yogurt into boxes. And there was this one woman, we were having a chat, and she was saying something funny and or something ridiculous. And I think I was kind of teasing her a little bit. And everybody else was kind of snickering along, and I was just being a smart ass, really. And she said, "Are you taking the piss out of me?" Right? And I had never heard that before. I thought she had made it up on the spot. It was, of all the phrases I had heard, that one I had never heard before. There's been others since, Bob's your uncle, certain things that you hear and you go through and you're thinking, is that an English thing? Is that an American thing or whatever? But are you taking the piss out of me? I guess it means the same as, are you busting my balls? Are you making fun of me? Are you trying to bust my balls here? So that was one thing that really got me. So I know it doesn't really answer your question. It has nothing to do with apps today, so you guys can give me a thumbs down today if you want. But for those of you guys who have moved to another country, you know what this is like. You guys, if you've relocated and you're trying to pick up certain bits of slang, it can be very confusing sometimes. And even now, there's still things that I hear from time to time. It's not so, now that I work on my own, I'm pretty much secluded, but there's still things that I hear from time to time that I don't know. Like, I have to ask, I'm sorry, what does that mean? Which is interesting. So anyway, that is it for today. Oh yeah, let me ask you guys, have you been in a situation where you moved to a new place and there's been a phrase that's come up and it completely, like you didn't know what it meant. Like you just completely, because we should say, are you taking the piss out of me? I'm trying to think, like I'm running through my Rolodex of what that could possibly mean, and nothing made sense. Like nothing was like, even the context of it didn't quite make sense. I was like, am I taking the what out of you? All right, so anyway, sorry for the vulgar language here today. Anyway, that is it for today. I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. go.